So, Shane Harris, president and founder of the People's Alliance for Justice. It's a national civil rights organization. Well, first and foremost, the Clark family is seeming to be more pleased with the legislation that came through that recently passed. That we all, our group, along with several other groups, were a part of getting done. The AB 392 piece of legislation that creates restrictions for officers using excessive force in the state of California and now has to be necessary or deemed necessary. So they're very happy with that legislative victory. It was a victory for us all who have been working on this issue and families who have been impacted by the issue. I think as far as the money is concerned, they have always conveyed, and we've always conveyed that money, 2.5 million or $2, could never bring back Stephon Clark. And so I think that it is some level of vindication, but it is not enough vindication. What would be vindication is that officers like Robinette and Mercado are not on department's force, are not, still in some way on staff in some way. We don't know what the situation is with the cops. We know that one has left town, but we don't know what happened with the other one. So we raise real concerns around the future of policing. We know that AB 392 was just a start, but there's more that needs to be done when it comes to holding officers accountable. And at the end of the day, no money can pay this family for what they have lost. So the two children, Aiden and Cairo, I know them very well. I work. I'm like their uncle. I go see them. I see them consistently. Selena, the mother, there's a great family, and we have supported them from the very beginning. A matter of fact, Nick Cannon and I just held a lunch in Sacramento on the 1 year anniversary for the mother and the children. So, you know, obviously, she feels no money can bring Stephon Clark back, and that money will become available to the children who really should be the ultimate beneficiaries. I mean, these two children now have to go through life without their father. And the best thing that can happen is to ensure that they have the funds, the resources to go to college, to succeed, to do well, to come back and use this horrible moment, turn it into a powerful moment by becoming the change that their father would want them to be in this time. And so we're hoping for the best for these two kids. They're two bright young children, and they're the nicest little human beings on this earth. And we're hoping that this will be something propelling them to college and giving them resources. We hope that this will give the mother resources to get her Stephon Clark Foundation really booming. I'm sure that we don't know what they'll do with the money, but I'm sure that that's part of her vision, and this family's vision is to take and ensure that Stephon Clark's legacy does not die. And so I'm sure those two kids will grow up learning about what happened to their dad. It is a historic event, a national event. Nobody will forget it, and they will have the opportunity to take resources and take different things that are given to them to be able to navigate a legacy for their father. I don't know what the whole Clark family's perspective is on the settlement. I know that many of them feel that the money's not enough, that we must continue to push for changes with the way that law enforcement reacts with citizens. What I do know is next for us is AB 392 was a good first step, but the People's Alliance for Justice and I and this family is already on board, and others believe in it too. We want to see independent investigations on police shootings. They called this the Stephon Clark Act, but we believe the act is not done. We must get independent investigations on police shootings because local prosecutors investigating local police in California, we believe, is a conflict of interest. So we want to get legislation authored that changes the game for how investigations are dealt with when it comes to police shootings. And we know that in this particular case, that was impacting this case. The district attorney of Sacramento called the shots, and she said that the officers would not be prosecuted. We want to take that power out of the DAs across the state of California's hands. It should be in the attorney general's hands to decide what the fate of officers would be, and it should be the attorney general lens, their eyes, looking at what the law is now with AB 392 on the books, having the perspective on whether the use of force was necessary and whether it wasn't. Remember, this bill passes, but it only says that officers will get that this will be a decision of necessary or not. The DA's eyes are still going to be looking at these cases. So it's not the end of the road. We know that DAs across the state will be looking at these cases and deciding whether they see necessary in the law for a shooting or not. So we're still dealing with an investigation issue. We're still dealing with lots of conflict of interest, and we believe at the People's Alliance for Justice that we need legislation authored next year, and coming into the next few years, that changes the game on how police shootings are investigated, because we know that that could have made a difference in this shooting. And so the family's on board with that. The Many of the activists are on board with that. It's sort of like being seen as a next step of where we navigate with the police shootings issue in California. Yeah, and another thing I would note is that the family, what's next for them, I would assume. I know I've talked to the mother, particularly the mother of the children. We held that lunch for them in March, me and Nick Cannon. They will be at our national grand opening, which is happening here in San Diego on the 21st of this month of September. Nick Cannon and I and several other national special guests are expected to attend this grand opening and this lunch that we're holding, and they'll be speaking there. And I think one of the things that we're really looking to help them do is to ensure that they organize around this. So the Stephon Clark Foundation, it's something we want to support. It's something Nick Cannon and I put our hands behind at the very beginning, that we wanted to help support this and do whatever we could to push support their way. So we're going to be looking to help them organize that Stephon Clark Foundation. Just as other mothers of police shootings have done, Trayvon Martin's mother has organized the Trayvon Martin Foundation. Michael Brown's family is organized. Eric Garner's family. We want to ensure that Stephon Clark's legacy does not die. And so we'll be supporting the Stephon Clark Foundation as that comes to fruition in their vision. And the foundation, my understanding, their focus of the foundation would be to focus on changing laws, advocating for changes when it comes to police and citizens' conduct in California and across the country. People really need to understand that the same DA's eyes are going to be looking at the law on this. So it's a good first step, but it doesn't solve all the problems. You're still going to have the same district attorneys looking at the law and deciding, oh, I don't know, is this case necessary? Was it necessary here? It wasn't. And they're going to still be looking and defining the law of what they see. So it's still through the district attorney's lens. We're hoping to change the game on how investigations happen, and that the state attorney general at the state level is looking into these cases instead of local district attorneys, and figure out where we're headed next. This movement is not over. This is only the beginning, and we want to ensure that not just true victory for the Clark family happens, for every family across California who has been impacted by these injustices. We've got to see them decrease, and we've got to continue to fight for more changes when it comes to law enforcement being held accountable.